Mr. Les Elgart. Say at barbecue time or any time, Jif Foam Oven Cleaner is the chef's best friend. Now, Jif Foam solves the old bugaboo of getting barbecue grills family clean. And Jif Foam dissolves baked-on grease and grime in minutes. In 3 easy steps, your barbecue grill can be family clean with Jif Foam. And here's all you have to do. Remove your grill while still hot. Now that you have second-degree burns on your hands, place it on the newspapers. Now spray on Jif Foam and wait 5 minutes. And then rinse with a garden hose and wipe dry, and what could be easier? Oh, Jif Foam is an oven cleaner that actually works in 5 minutes, and Jif Foam is not a mere detergent, you see. Instead, it's a chemical formula fortified with a catalyst, which activates only under heat, making it mild enough for normal hands and skin, and safe enough to be used without rubber gloves, too. So remember the name, Jif Foam Oven Cleaner. Spell out Spellout. Jif Foam, available soon at local stores. A look at the weather now in New York and vicinity. This afternoon, partly cloudy, windy, very warm, a high near 90. And tonight, clear, much cooler, a low in the 50s. Tomorrow, sunny and cooler, a high in the 70s. The temperature now is 92 degrees. Don't over-egg the pudding. If you plan to use a pesticide, it calls for 1 tablespoonful. Don't use 2. Now, there's a reason for those directions found on labels of pesticide containers, so take heed and don't take unnecessary chances. Use pesticides safely, will you? Well, the world's largest outdoor saltwater pool is open right now at 91 degrees. You ought to run over there at Palisades Amusement Park. $2,000 in merchandise given away free each day at Palisades, and you can ride the world's highest Swiss sky ride. Enjoy the fabulous new Showboat Funhouse featuring 35 attractions. Come on over to Palisades Amusement Park. WNEW, AM and FM in New York.
At 4 o'clock, WNEW News up to the minute.
The West Winds and ooey, ooey, ooey. Ted Brown here from now until 6 o'clock, as always, from 3 to 6 at WNEW. And let me see now. Are you a particular person? If you are, listen.
Particular about taste?
You bet I'm particular, and my Pell-Mells prove it.
Particular people take particular pleasure in the good taste of Pell-Mell. The flavors blended over, under, around, and through to bring that particular good taste to you. So get particular pleasure like particular people do in the good taste of Pell-Mell. So get particular pleasure like particular people do in the good taste of Pell-Mell.
Be particular. Buy Pell-Mell Famous Cigarettes. Outstanding. And they are mild. From the American Tobacco Company.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I've rented my tuxedo for tonight, and so I'm all ready. By the way, do you mind if I wear red socks? You see, in Yum Yum... Laureline Hunter and the Lull in My Life. The 4:30 news now here at WNEW, and then I shall return. By the way, a quick reminder, I'm not sure whether they have tickets or not, but you can check. But the only place that you can get tickets now, the box office of the Madison Square Garden on the 8th Avenue side, and they will be open until 8 o'clock tonight. So if you do not have tickets, give them a call, see if they have some, and if they do, get over and get them, will you? Because I don't want you to miss the show tonight. Well, let me see now. I shall be back following the news here at WNEW, AM and FM in New York. And I had a reminder here about the Agricultural Department, but I'll get to it in a moment or two. In the meantime, don't go away. It's news time.
It's 92 degrees and partly cloudy at 4:30. This is WNEW News up to the minute.
Thank you, Mike. It's 25 minutes before 5 o'clock.
Summer fair, summer fun, with Carling Black Label beer.
Summer fair like barbecues, and summer fun like baseball games call for light and lively refreshment, like Carling Black Label beer. You'll like it.
Carling Black Label, Carling Black Label beer. Mabel, Black Label.
That's very nice. That's Al Mooney. Al Mooney, known as Art Mooney to, of course, you. To me, he's Al Mooney. Always will be. We grew up together, Al and I. Oh, yes, on the East Side. And the only really unusual thing about it is that we grew up on the East Side and we didn't turn into comics. At least he didn't, anyway. I know I didn't. Anyway, it's 22 minutes before 5 o'clock, friends. And that was Art Mooney back again on the musical scene and Satin Doll. And as you know, I have my finger on the pulse of the music world. And in a moment, we'll have Carol Channing sing her big, big hit. Say, thinking about hiring a qualified disabled person? JOB Job, the union nonprofit placement agency, can give you the facts you'll want. It's easy. Today you call Job, JOB, representative about hiring a qualified disabled person. Here's the number, Yukon 60044. The weather now for New York and vicinity. Tonight, clear, much cooler, less humid, low in the 50s. Tomorrow, clear and mild, a dry high 75 to 80. And right now the temperature is 91 degrees and it's partly cloudy. And we have gusts up to 26 miles per hour. Ted Brown here at WNEW, AM and FM in New York. The 5 o'clock news will follow in just a moment.
Schrapp's ice cream special flavor this week is butterscotch vanilla. Creamy vanilla with swirls and swirls of butterscotch. What a bargain.
The president interrupts a speech for an historic announcement. The Senate gets down to wrapping up the Civil Rights Bill, and New York's highest court says the words, "Under God shall stay" in the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening, this is Jim Van Sickle with the news. This portion brought to you by Carlsberg, the celebrated beer of Copenhagen. Up before the graduating class at Holy Cross College this morning, Lyndon Baines Johnson, the president, delivering the commencement address, telling the seniors at Worcester, Massachusetts, that the United States has achieved an economic breakthrough in producing power from large-scale nuclear reactors. And he said, this knowledge will be shared with the world. In the midst of that speech, Mr. Johnson turned aside from his prepared text, announced another historic breakthrough. The Senate, he said, has just voted 71 to 29 to invoke cloture in the civil rights filibuster. And his words were greeted by a round of applause, a burst of cheers from those Holy Cross students. The story of the Senate action and its aftermath now from reporter John Lawrence in Washington.
It was a tense, dramatic scene as each of the 100 senators answered his name and announced his vote. Even Claire Engel was there, the ailing senator from California, in a wheelchair, wheeled up into the Senate chambers, but Engel's voice could not be heard. He just motioned with his hand a yes vote. Before the roll call was completed, it was clear that cloture had carried, ending the long Southern filibuster on civil rights. It was the margin that was surprising, 71 votes for cloture, 4 more than needed. Supporters of the Civil Rights Bill are hailing the cloture vote as a heartening victory. Senator Javits calls this a historic day for the nation. On the other hand, South Carolina's Senator Strom Thurmond is calling it a sad day for America. But Thurmond and Russell and the other Southerners are practically conceding defeat now in their fight against the bill. Approval is expected within the next 10 days, as soon as some 500 amendments have been decided. That process got underway minutes after the cloture vote, and little time is being wasted now after 75 days of long-winded debate. Only 6 Republicans voted against cloture, including Arizona Senator Goldwater. As for his position on the bill itself, Goldwater comments,
"Well, I can't tell you how I'm going to vote till I see what the bill is. Nobody in their right mind can say they will or won't vote for it, including the proponents. We have to see what it looks like. I'd like to vote for it, and I hope I can."
Goldwater said the cloture vote will not affect him politically. He thinks his fellow Republicans have run out of stop Goldwater candidates. He took the occasion to attack former Vice President Nixon and some other GOP leaders, charging that they're trying to wreck the party. Just how much pressure they do put on Goldwater may depend on his vote on the Civil Rights Bill, now expected before the Republican Convention, July 13th. This is John Lawrence, WNEW News at the U.S. Senate.
The battle for the GOP presidential nomination, it's all over, according to the Republican National Chairman, William Miller. Miller says Barry Goldwater has it cinched, and the party might just as well put aside all that talk about trying to stop him, unite behind him instead. He's apparently getting at least half of his wish. There was hardly a word anywhere in the GOP ranks today about putting up somebody to challenge Goldwater. Well, we tied a record today. The temperature this afternoon, 92 degrees. The all-time high for this date, equaling the mark set in 1959. And it was muggy, as if you didn't know it. The THI hitting 81. The Weather Bureau says an index of 80 is enough to make everybody just plain miserable. Take heart, though. Cold Canadian air on the way, barreling in, and it should be a lot cooler and a lot less humid tonight, too. Details in a few minutes. The Pledge of Allegiance, it stands as is. That story in a minute.
I usually don't talk about myself like this.
No, I'm interested in every word you say. I'm a writer. People fascinate me.
You are different.
No, I'm just myself, plain Alfred.
Alfred. Strong, yet sensitive. Wild, yet gentle. Alfred, I'm drawn to you, but I need time. Time to know more about you.
And I want to know more about you. You're the most beautiful girl I've ever met. Look, all the men are staring at you. Come, let's leave. I know a lovely place we can talk to each other over a bottle of Carlsberg beer.
I don't drink beer.
You don't drink Carlsberg beer?
I don't drink any beer.
Oh. I was very pleased to have met you.
All over the world, intelligent people select Carlsberg, on sale in fine hotels, restaurants, and stores in 159 countries and at the World's Fair. Carlsberg, the celebrated beer of Copenhagen.
This next portion of WNEW News is brought to you by Robert Hall, now featuring a complete collection of vacation wear and warm weather clothing fashions for all the family. You can always afford to look your best when you shop at Robert Hall. Now more news with James Van Sickle.
The words, under God, and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, they do not violate the Constitution. So rules the New York State Court of Appeals this afternoon, a unanimous ruling upholding lower court decisions in a case brought against the State Education Department. An organization called the Free Thinkers of America had insisted that the phrase was just as much a prayer as the 22-word prayer outlawed by the Supreme Court 2 years ago. Not so, says the six-man panel of the appeals court. No violation here of the constitutional separation of church and state. The words in question were inserted in the pledge 10 years ago under a congressional mandate. And that part of it, as you know, goes, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the courtroom in Kew Gardens this afternoon, a tale of murder, rape, robbery, and arson. And the tale was told by the man on trial for his life, for one of those crimes. Told in a calm, almost matter-of-fact voice by Winston Mosley. The 29-year-old business machine operator said he had no ill feelings toward any of his victims. He's accused of killing 2 women, Annie Mae Jackson and Kitty Genovese, and of the rape-slaying of 16-year-old Barbara Kralik. Typical of his lurid, frightening testimony, these comments. 4 or 5 times, said Mosley, I set out to find a woman to kill. He found one, Miss Jackson, outside her home in Ozone Park. I shot her in the stomach, he said, although I had no particular reason, and then dragged her body into the living room and set fire to it. A tale of horror unfolding today in a Queens courtroom. For former New York State Supreme Court Justice James Keogh, freedom. The Federal Parole Board says Keogh will be turned out of jail next Tuesday. And former U.S. Attorney Elliot Kahaner also will be paroled in 2 weeks. Both men have served some 8 months of their 2-year prison term. Keogh and Kahaner convicted of obstruction of justice in a case involving a Brooklyn federal court fix attempt. The latest on the Laos situation, the State Department says it has not received any request from Premier Suvarnabhumi to halt those reconnaissance flights over communist territory in Laos. There had been persistent reports all day that he had asked us to cut them out, following a couple of incidents of clashes between them and Red forces on the ground. Wall Street now, and here's Rudy Ruderman.
A second straight rally, but it fizzled out in the final hour of profit-taking today. The popular averages held part of their gains, though. The Dow Jones Industrial's up 1.99, Standard & Poor's 500 stock index up 15 cents, and volume dropped to 4,170,000 shares. Jim?
Rudy Ruderman, who'll be back at 6:30 with a report in full on Wall Street today. The weather in a minute.
When the values go up, 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 and the prices go down, 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 Robert Hall will show you the reason they give you high quality economy.
Men, Robert Hall has nationally famous Sorrento tropical suits at up to 30% less than comparable suit values.
Sorrento, Dacron, and Worsted Tropicals, only $34.95.
Gentlemen, Robert Hall never charges for alterations. You get satisfaction or your money back. For the big savings, see these fine Dacron and Worsted Tropic suits at Robert Hall.
Sorrento, Dacron, and Worsted Tropicals, only $34.95, including alterations.
Then you can always afford to look your best when you shop at Robert Hall.
Father's Day special, a huge assortment of men's famous Westerfield short-sleeve sport shirts, regularly $2.99 each. Now, gift price, 2 shirts for $5 at Robert Hall. Now, James Van Sickle.
And here's the official weather forecast for New York and vicinity. Tonight, clear, much cooler, less humid, lows in the 50s. And tomorrow, clear, mild, dry, highs 75 to 80. Right now, the humidity 40%, winds southwest 11 miles an hour with gusts to 26, temperature 91 degrees. Again, close up on that headline story, the Senate back at work on the Civil Rights Bill after its historic action choking off the long filibuster. That's the news being made right now. This is Jim Van Sickle. Next, WNEW News, 5:30. Now back to Ted Brown.
Thank you, Jim. 10 minutes past 5 o'clock. We'll be here until 6 o'clock. Close up, of course, and along with us, people like Bobby Darin.
Ever think of the cars you can buy for less than $2,400? Stop and think a moment. Then ask yourself, wouldn't you really rather have a Buick? Well, you can. A beautiful new Buick V6 Special for just $23.43. $23.43.
That is Errol Garner and Mimi, you funny little Mimi. Oh, I love you so, eh? Say, the West Side Highway and East River Drive are heavy northbound, eh? And they're Rudy La Paix. All Rudy is okay, nice and easy and smooth, and everything's going along. Major